Sorry for the delay there.
Hey, thanks.
Great. So we are now live streaming, and I am going to play the sponsor video and kick it over to Jake Cohen.
Awesome, thank you.
Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Tammy Dorr, President and CEO of the Downtown Denver Partnership and co-founder of Denver Startup Week. I'm so excited to bring all of these dreamers and visionaries together. Our country was built on capitalism, entrepreneurs drive that, and we could all use a little bit of dreaming right now. We're able to bring Denver Startup Week to this community thanks to our sponsors. Join me in thanking our 2020 Denver Startup Week sponsors. Our title sponsors, Downtown Denver Partnership, JP Morgan Chase, Prologis, and Xero. Our track sponsors who have made all of the great content you're hearing today possible. Battery 621 and the Public Works, Capital One Cafe, Colorado Lending Source, Friday Health, Quizlet, Exactly, Zayo, and Zestful. Our headline event sponsors are bringing the excitement of this week to you. Thank you to Wix, Kenzen, MAPR Agency, Obsidian HR, Kickstart Fund, Promontory Mortgage, Molson Coors, and Comcast. And finally, thank you to our partner and member sponsors. They're all listed on the screen. Please say thank you to these companies as you enjoy our virtual Denver Startup Week. And don't forget, use hashtag DenStartupWeek to share your experience and moments of inspiration on social media.
Hello, I'm Sal Gentili, CEO of Friday Health Plans, and we're proud to sponsor the growth track this year at Denver Startup Week. We're a company that just entered a rapid growth phase, so we felt it was particularly appropriate. When my business partner and I started Friday Health Plans 5 years ago, we knew we wanted to create a company that catered to people who bought their own health insurance. The Affordable Care Act was just getting going, and we saw an opportunity to serve a brand new market of health insurance consumers. Independent consultants, startup groups, gig workers, service industry workers, designers, creators, and other independent professionals, like many of you here today. We knew that if we built a health plan that was simple to buy, easy to use, had great customer service, and most of all was affordable, we could compete against the big insurance plans who only focus on serving big companies. After spending 5 years getting into the Colorado market and completing a successful proof of concept, we successfully closed a $50 million round of growth funding earlier this year. We're now about to expand to 3 additional states later this year, hire more than 400 employees to support our growth, and eventually be in more than 10 states by 2025. I wish each of you good luck in your startup and growth pursuits. And as you think about your upcoming health insurance needs, I hope you consider fellow growing startup Friday Health Plans. Open enrollment starts November 1st. Check us out at fridayhealthplans.com. And growth pursuits. And as you think about your
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Jake Cohen, the Growth Track Chair and member of the Denver Startup Week Organizing Committee. Sorry about the technical difficulties, obviously having a day with Zoom, but I'm going to cut my comments short so that we can give as much time back to our panelists. So over to you guys.
Thank you so much, Jake. My name's Katie O'Brien and I work with Xero, and we're very excited to be part of this panel. And so I'm going to hand it over to Jensen Werley, who will be moderating it. Thanks, Jensen.
Well, hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Jensen Werley. I'm a reporter at Denver Business Journal. Really excited to talk about business resilience today. I think a lot of our conversation is going to be centered around COVID-19, but of course, if you're a business owner, you know that having to stay resilient and pivoting is nothing new to COVID. So I think we'll have a really great discussion today. First, wanted to start with introducing our panelists. Panelists, can you each introduce yourselves, share your pronouns, and tell us about your company? We'll start with you, Tina.
Hey, thank you. Yes, I'm Christina Garza. Pronouns are she and her, and I'm the founder of Accounting Pros. We are the first and only Platinum Xero partner in Colorado. We focus on fixed rate bookkeeping and payroll services and advisory services for our clients throughout the United States. What we really try to do is, we understand that the data entry, the mundane stuff is necessary, but we really try to focus on helping our clients uncover what's really going on in their business and really create a wonderful path forward. So that's what we're all about. Thanks.
How about you, TJ?
Yeah, I'm TJ, she, her. My company, The Bookkeep, we work with purpose-driven and creative companies. And like Tina, we're all about automation with Xero products and focusing primarily on financial analysis to empower clients in making managerial and growth decisions. As business owners, we have gut instincts and we want to have that backing with metrics. And so we try to provide that.
Frank?
First, I want to thank Denver Startup Week. I've been involved since like 2012, and it's such a great part of Denver and the startup community. I'm Frank Traylor, he, him. I'm founder and CEO of Agroscience Labs. Back when marijuana was legalized, it was important that product safety was ensured. So a regulatory framework was built up around product testing. And we started in 2014 to meet that need. And we have the oldest license in Colorado, which I think, because Colorado was first means the oldest license in the US or the universe, or the known universe, I suppose. When COVID came around, we were faced with different challenges in some because we're essential. What a long way we've come from illegal to essential. So we didn't have to just survive, but safety was paramount. And that's some of the things I'll talk about is a little bit different approach for us.
Great. Well, full disclosure, I have a cat laying fully across my keyboard, so she might be making an appearance, but let's get started with just talking about the ability to pivot. You're all business owners. When have you realized that you needed to, oh, there she goes. When have you realized you needed to pivot, or when did a client of yours need to pivot? And what were those changes that you made to make that happen? Christina?
Yeah, for sure. So I started seeing the writing on the wall in late February, early March. I really knew that, there's a big need to shore up our internal capital and make sure that our clients had cash on hand. So we were looking initially at traditional forms of capital. So like normal debt raises and things like that. But we actually had to completely shift our focus over to the economic injury disaster loan and the Paycheck Protection Program. And that was really challenging because we have many, many clients that needed it. But thankfully, our team worked super hard and got anybody who needed it funded. We funded about $10 million in PPPs and more in the economic injury disaster loan. But in addition to that, I also put together an access to capital document that I shared widely. I wanted to make sure that everybody had access to information to help their business be successful. And in that, I started a YouTube channel, which then provided information out to all of our clients because I just couldn't get it out to everybody, fast enough. A Facebook group where we were sharing information really widely. And we also started to accelerate internally a software tool that we're creating called Kaya Insights. It's a dashboarding and insights tool that really helps you understand what's going on with the business. And we'll be bringing that to our clients so that they can understand when it's time to pivot and what they need to be doing. I wish I would have done that sooner. I actually have Frank to thank on this call, because he actually gave me a lot of really good ideas of what he's doing internally to track. And that really helped to inspire a lot of the things that we're doing in Kaya Insights. But really, our pivots were around helping our clients get the funding that they needed and really understand what they needed to be doing to change more quickly. Without having access to numbers, it's really, really hard to see what's working and what's not working. So being able to be, boots on the ground, seeing that information really helped to inform our clients more fully.
Great. Frank or TJ, and feel free to jump in, and same goes to the audience. We've got a Q&A and chat function. If you have questions for our panelists, please share them. We've got some really great minds here to talk.
Yeah, I had a handful of clients that lost all their revenue immediately. Everything they did was in person, non-essential. So they really, really had to just figure out a new way to do business and operate in this climate. And they're all creatives, like truly by nature. So for me, I was like, I don't know how to help you. I want, as an advisor, to have answers for you, but no one had any answers. So, like Tina was saying, staying up to date, every single webinar on PPP and any grant information was important, because that stuff changed daily. And they expected me to know, but again, no one knew. So really what I focused on was providing them the financial data they needed to trust their gut instincts, because they know their businesses and, they're their babies. They know what to do. I just need to make sure I'm there to help either steer them in the right way or, tell them they need to change it up. But yeah, so I just super supportive is all I could be. As far as my personal business, they inspired me. I was like, I wish I had that kind of creativity sometimes. And I definitely consider myself a creative, but yeah, really, I learned the types of businesses I wanted to work with, the kinds of people that can handle a crisis, and what industries really I wanted to focus on. My business is pretty young, and so yeah, it was a very, very growing summer for me.
I'd like to jump in there really quickly. We actually did a lot of brainstorming sessions inside of our own business, just talking through, looking at our clients' financials and trying to understand who needs our help right now. And we have some really amazing people in our team. And we had our team go to our clients and say, have you thought about XYZ? So for example, can you deliver alcohol because that has better margins? Or can you also have, change your business slightly in another way in order to generate revenue? And just kind of thinking through those things, I think helped my employees, who are already very empathetic and compassionate, build a deeper level of understanding and empathy for our clients, because it really gave them the chance to, get in their shoes and see the world from their eyes, which, it's a blessing and a curse. I don't want COVID. I don't want this to be happening right now, but it really inspired my team to really step it up and figure out, what can we do to help our clients change more rapidly or do things differently when they might have thought about that less before?
Yeah, I want to add one more thing. Like Tina said, giving some examples and offering outside advice. I was lucky because all of my businesses range from different industries, different kinds of creatives. So if one person was trying something that's working, I would tell all my clients, this person's trying this thing, you should try it. So that was really nice to be able to feel really connected in a time when we're not connected, and being able to share information. I mean, that's the essential networking / support center that we all need.
Yeah, I'm a little bit on the other side of the fence, because it's the operating business that's supported by people like Christina, and we've been clients of Christina's since 2016. We had our first company meeting in the first week of March to discuss the virus, what we're going to do about it. And of course, there's the things that were just mandatory: sanitization, masks. In particular, communication is important, because some people are in mortal fear, and other people really don't care that much. So having everybody in the room discussing it, getting on the same page is important to keep your team together. And we communicated a lot. As far as distancing, that's really where it hits a company, and because your employees can't be together. So we moved from 5-day work weeks to 7 to spread people out, went from 1 shift to 2. We had workplace separation. So we have really 3 floors, but 2 floors that we operate on. And so if you're on the 2nd floor where the business operations are, you don't go down into the lab and vice versa. So if somebody becomes sick, then you know who they've been exposed to, and it's easier to track down. Remote work was another thing that we did maximized to the greatest extent possible. But that's easier said than done. You can say, oh, that would be great, that would be great, that'd be great. But some companies, remote work, you don't have the solution, and separating people. And that's where I think it's, again, we started with the accounting pros in 2016, and Christina was kind of a match made in heaven, because I've been a CEO for a couple decades, but I'm an engineer and a software guy, and Christina's a total geek, and she's always looking at how the software can make things better. And so the key is to have low touch, high efficiency solutions. So for instance, our AP system they set up for us, the front end is bill.com, and it feeds in, and receipt bank, and it feeds into Xero. So typically I will, I'll be sitting at home in front of my computer, and an email come through with an attached PDF, and I just a few keystrokes, it's into bill.com. And then, once a week or so, I review all the invoices that came in and decide if I'm going to pay them. You really don't have to do much of anything. The things that come in the mailbox, I grab, or somebody grabs and puts on the scanner, and that sends it to bill.com. So really, we've really reduced any, handing things off. AR, similar. Xero's integrated directly to our testing system. The analytics that Christina talked about, all of our reporting can be accessed by customers and by us, and we have 1.5 million records now. So those are the things we did. We've been doing all along, because we've been, working with accounting pros and really trying to make things efficient. But once COVID really hit, we really had up our communication game. Everybody's using Zoom, and we were using Zoom kind of early, but we really ramped it up. And we also switched to Zoom Phone, because having a good VoIP system is critical. You when you're sitting, externally at home or something, and you answer the phone, and they say, I'd like to talk to Jeff, and you type in his extension and you transfer it. Just, that was super important. Accessing the customers externally, we have always used Slack, but you can open up external channels to customers, and that helped them not have to come and see us or us see them. We use Slack. Invoiced is a payment system for our customers, and Christina lined us up with credit card processing, which is seemingly pretty easy, but not easy in the marijuana business. So our customers can actually just go onto the portal and click a button and put in their credit card, not even call us, and pay things. So it's really been, really helped us out. Oh, and maybe the most obvious, how some solutions are super obvious once you know them, and they're so far away until you do. All of our instruments, you'll have a liquid chromatograph, and you'll feed the samples in, and then an analyst sits in front of it and looks at the PC that's connected and analyzes all that data. And so people had to be in the lab. Well, it turns out they didn't have to be in the lab. We set up Splashtop, which is a remote desktop system. So now our analysts are remote too. So we've really kind of spread that around, and that, remote desktop, who doesn't know about that, but we just never thought about having our analysts someplace else. So we're now looking at maybe we can help people in other states. Anyway, all these solutions kind of came around technology. The scientists that are in-house were able to handle the sanitization and masks and understanding pretty well, but the technology's really helped us out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you answered the question that way, because you really address the sort of practical changes that you've made because of COVID. TJ, I'm wondering if you could answer maybe more broadly and existentially, how do you think small businesses and the small business landscape has changed probably permanently because of COVID-19?
Yeah, so the social and political climate changed. I mean, all of the stuff that's happened has been political, unfortunately. And so watching my clients be very, very mindful of that and actually use that in their marketing efforts, without it being at a polarizing degree, it allows for more human connection. And, I'm an accountant, Tina's an accountant, there's a billion accountants. I think having the human connection with people and being able to trust each other is imperative in business, because I can get a pair of shoes from anyone. I want value alignment with who the people I get my shoes from. Yeah, so I think that's kind of what really is getting defined right now, because we're so disconnected that we're forcing more connection and like genuine connection. I even think networking is getting better because we're so lonely. When we go into these virtual networking, we're like hungry for connection, people, and empowering other people. And that's actually the reason why I started my company, was to empower humans to take risks, and so really empowering each other, I think, is the thing that's come through with all this. And like being able to share our values, our personal values professionally, game changer. I mean, it's hard to be work TJ and personal TJ, private TJ. Like, I'm one person. And so the fact that I get to share my values now and it isn't taboo, I think just business in general has changed immensely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all seen that. Have any of you seen any sort of, I mean, TJ, you sort of hit it, but any other silver linings or positive changes that you've seen because of this situation that we're all in?
Yeah, so I actually do have some silver linings because of those, because you're able to connect with your clients and really understand them on a personal level. I think it's really helped to build relationships to be more strong, and also creating referral relationships out of that. So even if you didn't intend to use that as a marketing technique, it really is helping to build business. And then I also think that people are really starting to look at the data behind, what's going on in the business. So rather than just, flying by the seat of their pants, they're really figuring out what do I want to happen in my business? What's going to lead to that, to that goal? So really looking at leading indicators in order to influence the result, which is a lagging indicator. So financial statements like profit and loss, balance sheet, those are all lagging. That tells me what happened. As a business owner, I want to know what's going to happen. So I really want to influence the future. So people are really starting to break down overall, what are the objectives of the business? What are the things that are going to influence that objective? And how can we track it so that we can make sure that in the future, we have more of the good things happening and less of the bad things happening? And previously, I mean, I don't know about anybody who's listening in, but I have sometimes felt like it was pulling teeth trying to get somebody to look at their financials. I would say, hey, look at your financials. Let's see if you're profitable or not. Let's see if you've got money left over. Can you afford to pay yourself? Can you hire? And it was like, yeah, I'll get to you next week. I'll get to you next week, or you never would hear back. Fortunately, I have a lot of really amazing clients who did want to look at the numbers. Frank is an excellent example of somebody who's very data driven. But I think that those people who might not have been as interested in accounting are now starting to see that it can be really sexy, because it actually is important and useful and drives the business forward. And they really want to have those conversations, and those behaviors will continue on, hopefully the rest of their business life. And somebody who really does that, who really does the work now to understand the numbers moving forward, will be in a much better position, both in driving the success, but also getting things like capital raises and things like that. So I'm hoping those things stay, but that has made me really excited because we get to have more interesting and meaningful conversations.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you, and it's driven by, it has to be a change in mindset and the fear that's driving all this, that you look daily how many tens of thousands of people have died, and and your business is in mortal danger also. So there are no more cash cows where you can sit back and see how much money's in your bank account at the end of the month. There's just too much risk, and it's made people pay attention. Like Christina said, they'll call her and say, hey, what do I do? Where am I? How much danger am I in? Avail themselves of things they wouldn't have had to. All this funding, maybe people haven't gone out for funding, but now there's funding available. And Christina mentioned that the PPP loans. But the flip side is with everybody going through hardship. I agree with TJ. It brings you together, and you say, business is typically dog eat dog, and you try to make your business the best, and if there's a competitor, you make their business the worst. And I don't see that as much anymore. There's so many people that have failed. You try to figure out how to help them out. Honestly, if you run a restaurant, I'm lucky I could still run my business. I can't imagine what it would be like figuring out cash flow if you ran a restaurant. So I think that really does bring us together, because there's really I think there's a lot of destruction out there, and I hope it recovers, relatively quickly.
Sorry. Can I add?
Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. To add to Frank, it was kind of like the ultimate stress test too, and this whole thing affected us all as humans, whether in a very personal level, whether we're willing to talk about that or not. It really affected us all deeply. People lost people, emotionally, our mental health is being crazy and just all over the place. It affected us on a very human level, and then also stress test our businesses. So I think it was like a perfect opportunity to see what the realistic expectations of ourselves and our businesses truly are, and it's just that it's like, the low margin industries already, like, what do you do and how do you navigate that when you're feeling like your insides are falling apart too? But yeah, I think that's very important to recognize that it hit us on so many different levels. But we have like Tina said, we have all this amazing data now to analyze, which is kind of like the silver lining.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's particularly with small businesses, it's impossible to separate the fact that it's just people who are all working on their livelihoods, and that's been tested quite a bit during this period. What I'd love to hear from each of you is, what are the skills and the strategies that you think are going to characterize the successful small business whenever we are in a post-COVID world?
So of course, data analysis or just understanding your numbers, that's a given. Being able to figure out what those numbers mean and how they can be useful and meaningful for you are really important. But other skills, I think communication skills really need to be at the forefront of our minds. I am of the belief that no information is really proprietary. By me sharing information, it doesn't hurt my business, it helps everybody around me. And so that's why I created the YouTube channel and really just trying to give information away for free, because I think if it helps somebody out in some way, then it helps everybody out. And so I think a skill that people really need to work on is, how can you get information to the masses to help them, even if it doesn't pay you right away? So if I can write documentation around how to read financials or how to apply for the PPP or how to do anything in your business, you're not going to pay me for it, and that's fine. But on the back end, of course, it's helping me become get more recognition. That's all great. But ultimately, getting that information out there is super important for every business owner. And being able to communicate that clearly and effectively, I think, is also really important. And then internal documentation, I think, needs to be something that people really focus on. And that's also a skill. So we're actually revamping our entire internal and external help documentation. So I'm a big fan of flowcharts. So we've actually put together all of our processes in a new system called Trainual, which is actually a client of ours, but we would use them regardless. And we're making sure that everything that we do internally is well documented, and it's not just the how, but the why. So if anybody needs to take time off, and I know that somebody anonymously asked, what do you do to keep morale up during this time? We're giving lots of time off. That's really important. So everybody should know how to do everything if they need to take time off. And if we need to bring more people on to help really lighten the load amongst all of our staff, having a really easy way to onboard our team is done by using a system like that. So if you don't already have it, have a system to document your internal processes or your external help docs. Using something like Trainual, using Lucidchart, even a Google Doc is enough. But you want to make sure that it's okay for you to take a step away from the business if you need a mental health day, if you want to participate in protests, if you need just some time off, or if somebody is sick, you need to have that stuff placed somewhere. And so written communication, verbal communication, all that stuff really needs to be shored up to really make both of those things really effective.
Yeah, just Tina hit almost everything. Frank mentioned too, communicating and using Slack is an awesome way to do that. Communicating also includes our marketing efforts. Everyone is talking on the internet right now, so you can go listen to every conversation that you want. So you can hear what your clients need, you can hear all of that. And I think tapping into that is super essential for any forward decisions that we're gonna make. And then internal metrics, of course, analyzing those things are very, very important as well. And then to speak on the question, keeping morale up, I have one assistant. My company's not huge, but I start every client meeting with discussing their wins. And I ask them what their wins are because I want them to identify what's going right, because so many people feel like everything is going wrong right now. I think it's important to remember we are still going and we're still making smart decisions. And then that even helps me continue the conversation on, what new metrics we need to be analyzing and what we also need to tie to their financial reporting. And then, just comprehensive reporting, looking at sales, looking at internal metrics, looking at your marketing metrics, everything, and automating those so that they're just filtered into spreadsheets for you. And then hopefully that spreadsheet's making graphs for you. Yeah, I think all of that, it can be done pretty simply once it's set up. So
I want to jump in and add something else. So you mentioned talking about wins. Success is different for everybody. Success could mean that you make $1 million, or you take half the year off, or you get to stay home with your kids, or, it really just depends on who you are and what your focus in life is. And by really understanding your clients and active listening to what they find, like how they think success is in their business, and then talking about the wins is super crucial. If I'm just going to throw out, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, this is my version of a win, it doesn't really help the client. It helps them understand what my goal is. But I think it's great to start those conversations and talk about the wins with an understanding that, are the wins actually meaningful for you? Is this something that you really want? But I love talking about wins among our team. I really pump everybody up. They're awesome anyway, so it's really easy to do. But really just sitting back and remembering, yeah, even though everything sucks right now, which it does, there's also really great things happening, and let's celebrate that when we can.
Yeah, and that's true. I think that's always a good part of management, to make sure that people are motivated in this situation. There's also some other concerns in our meetings. We always talked about physical health, financial health, and mental health. Physical health, obviously. Financial health, everyone's focusing on making sure we can still, get paychecks out. And mental health, because it is pretty stressful to, be locked up. And I think that we have had people, Christina said how important it is to document processes. Absolutely. And we've had multiple people out. No one has tested positive for COVID, but I think we all know that there's scares. We had somebody who was an employee that had a roommate who moved his mom on Thursday and Friday, and then his mom came down with the symptoms of COVID on Saturday. And of course, this guy was living with our employees. So he said, all right, you're gonna have to take, 4 days and quarantine and just see how you feel. So you're gonna be missing people no matter what, even if no one gets sick with COVID, just by being careful. Some of the other things I think that skills and strategies, just going back down to streamlined workflow and implementing technology as best you can. It's not easy. I'm one of those that'll spend a lot of time to get something to work, as long as you don't have to touch it after that. And then extend it off to customers. And the customers are, they're really grateful. If you can say, look at this is the way we do this and how much easier it's going to be. It's just a one person for you rather than two people. You pay online rather than you put a check in the mail. They are so grateful because there's just no spare cycles right now. It's very tight. So it draws us closer to the customer, having, going through all this. So it's actually been a great time. And I guess another skill throw in there, cash analysis. That's always important, but now you just don't know what's coming. So have your analytics to try to figure out, you could look at your bank statement, find out where you are today, but you need to know where you are in 2 weeks and 2 months and 4 months. You just need to know you're going to survive. And, it's tough. I know it's tough watching that cash and trying to figure out that you're going to stay in business.
I want to also elaborate on the systems stuff. I'm completely a systems nerd and I'm into documenting it all too. But there are really, truly days I had when I would get up and like, okay, I need a document to just tell me what to do because I can't even focus because there's just so much stuff going on around me. So yeah, having that was essential, and having your systems documented are essential for growth and everything, but it really was a great tool. And then also keeping my email away message like ready to go. So if I needed a day, I'm just turning that on and I'm focusing on what I need to focus on. And I can't talk to other people right now. But yeah, I think that's truly just kind of like setting it and forgetting it. Like Frank said, with a system, it's the same way with documentation. It's like, I don't have to know what I'm doing today. I could look at a document and it'll tell me. So.
Yeah, I like what you said about having the out of office just ready and raring to go. I always try to make really fun out of offices, but I think I give my team a lot of time off. I think it's really essential. And it's a skill that I've really had to work on, but it's the skill of saying no to things or saying, later to things, and then also taking time off for myself. I normally do meditation retreats, which is really hard right now. But just even if you're at home, recognizing today's a day that I do everything that I love to do, but it is not work. It's painting, it's reading, it's exercising, it's playing with my cat, who unfortunately is not sitting on my lap right now, maybe next time. But really just recognizing that you also need a break and that you also deserve that time. Because I think as business owners, we push ourselves so hard until we get to a breaking point and we're like, how the heck did I get here? But if you can recognize those signs of burnout way earlier on and then really work against it by being kind to you, then you'll be in a much better position. But I believe you me, it is really, really hard. And I know everybody who's listening probably feels that. So get that out of office response ready, or even just schedule in advance, like circle it on your calendar and say, this is a day that I don't do any work. I don't do anything that requires, my brain. I just veg out and have fun.
Absolutely. Frank, you mentioned technology. We got a question from the audience just asking about how you signed up for Zoom Voice and how you use it, which would be great if you could answer that for that person. But made me think more broadly, there's so many tools out there. It can be overwhelming what to use. How did you select and sort through all the tools available and your process for selecting what would be best for you?
Yeah, that's a huge question. As far as Zoom, it's really easy to go to the website, VoIP phones, a broad range of VoIP phones. The administration is pretty easy. That said, it's still a phone system, and we're working through, when a call comes in, does it go to everybody? Does it go to a single person? How long does it go there? Once it leaves there, does it go to everybody or to a group or a single person? And how soon do you leave a message? And it's, that whole setup is, I think we're still working on it. Other things, let's take the analytics. That was, I looked at a lot of analytics systems, And what drew us to Zoho Analytics was that customers could log in. Typically, an analytics system is internal. So, your marketing people can log in, and then, accounting people and the biz dev people, and of course, the CFO for their executive reports. We have all of our test results for the last 2.5 years, and customers can log into the system and just see theirs rather than everybody. So that was a unique capability, and that was more involved to get going, but that's just one of those things that the momentum effect, you just keep pushing and it gets better. Another one was invoiced, and boy, I probably looked at, and we started with collections, right? How do we collect on these outstanding invoices, have automatic chasing where people get, emails, and I tried 3 or 4, as just free trials, ended up with Satago, and they're a UK company, and it wasn't really made for that. They're made for financing receivables, but they had some of the features. And then I ended up with this Invoiced, which is great because it integrates directly with Xero. You click import, all your invoices come in, your personalized invoices go out, statements can go out, people have their own portal to pay online. It was really, so there's these things out there, but you kind of have to turn over some rocks, and it turns out Invoice is really pretty brand new. So I worked with their team to say, hey, this isn't working and this isn't working. The technology is really moving quickly. I wish I had a short answer, but whenever you think something could be easier, it probably can be. And it's just a matter of looking.
I'm going to piggyback on Frank. So he said that he looked at various invoicing applications to find out what was right for his business. I think in order for you to find out what's right, you really need, or what tool is going to be the right fit for you, is to really understand what you need. And so before you go out and test 100 different tools for whatever use case it is, whether it's phone or analytics or invoicing software, really understanding these are the things that I must have. These are the things that would be great. And if you can find something that fits that, that'll definitely shorten the amount of time it takes to really get to the meat of it. Like, is this going to be a good fit? If you're just kind of willy-nilly, trying different things, you're going to feel like totally overwhelmed and frustrated. So having a methodical approach when you're looking at software is incredibly important.
Yeah, and to add to that, a lot of my clients are super creatives, not awesomely into tech. I have a client that does everything on their iPhone. They don't even have a computer. And so like Xero is really great for that. They can do everything, in the Xero app on their phone that they need to do. And then, review financials with me. So it's no big deal. But when I'm advising on apps specifically for clients, I always tell them, or always ask them, or try to get to the bottom of what is the exact problem we're trying to solve. Is there a problem, or what, what is the outcome? What are we expecting out of this? Because there's a million apps that do pretty much the same thing with a few tweaks here and there. So really knowing exactly what you're looking for is so important. And then the Xero apps marketplace is just, everything's broken down there. So you can even kind of see what those apps are specifically targeting and specific industries and things like that. There's a solution out there for every problem with an app. And then most things are open source too, so you can hire a developer to make something else talk to something. It can be made easier, and definitely getting to the root of the actual problem and what questions you need answered is the first step.
Yeah, and I'll, I agree with that. The most important thing is integration. If you're using two things that aren't moving information between them automatically, if you're doing it manually, it just really is pretty tough. There's a couple of interfaces that we do where it, daily something gets exported and then we import it. And that's about as far as we go. I think platforms, I always tell young companies, platforms are super important. You have to decide if you're going to go with Outlook or G Suite. We go with G Suite. I like how it, we administer it. Obviously there's a question for a young company on QuickBooks or Xero, and we went with Xero. And as TJ said, there's loads of integrations, our invoicing app, you just click the button and you put in your login and you're tied in. That is, as you're looking at these things, that's probably the most important thing to look at, because you're just going to cause yourself, a lot of headache if they're not integrated.
And don't forget error. Humans typing things into a computer, there's always room for error.
I want to talk about sort of longer term. When you're speaking with your clients, what are the questions that are on top of their mind? What are they thinking about for longer term? Frank, what are you thinking about for your business long term? We're in a pandemic, but things are going to continue after this, and business as usual doesn't really change. So what's on your mind 5-year plan long term?
I think this has brought a lot of ideas. Like I said, the remote desktop. As everybody knows, marijuana is becoming legal in more states every year. So there's, all these states expand. There's more labs each place, and what we have, is intellectual property, and we have smart people that analyze this stuff. That can be distributed. Right? You'll need people in-house that receive samples and prep samples, but everything from knowing who to purchase the equipment to how to run it, to how to calibrate it, to what methods to use, to the analysts that look at the data. That could be done all from Colorado or from Bali. Bali would be nice. So it is, to Christina's point about what would you really like to do. So that's where we're going to try to take it, because I think we've done some things that, and consolidating the systems, there's always economies of scale. If you have your AP and AR figured out and your financial reporting, do it once rather than a bunch of times. So I hope that is something that we can utilize going forward for the next 5 years.
I think that Frank made a great point too about remote working, because you have access to the best people. You're not limited to who can commute to your office or your place of business at all, provided it's accessible, via remote desktop or something like that. From my point of view, my clients have all tried something brand new. And so right now we're reviewing how those changes actually affected their business and how we're going to keep them as permanent changes moving forward. Because they came up with some great ideas, and now through tagging and automation of their invoicing and things like that, I have the ability to see exactly how well they performed during this, and so we get to actually dig into that and say, okay, are we gonna keep this going forward, or should we change it up a little bit? But yeah, having that monthly feedback in the form of financial reporting for them, just to see how those really quick changes actually took effect on their business. I think that's the strategy short term right now.
Yeah, so according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, 20% of small businesses failed within the first year. By the end of the 5th year, 50% of businesses have failed. And after 10 years, only a third of those businesses have survived. Now you throw in a pandemic and everybody's hair's on fire and you're trying to figure out what the heck's going on. So in the immediate term, I think people are really trying to figure out how screwed are they? And I call it the how effed am I meter? Is it ding, ding? Are we all the way over here? Or are we in a more sane area? And just really trying to get over the hump of immediate cash flow issues, or getting expenses down, making sure that they maintain their client base, making sure that they keep people happy. That's really important. The long-term views and stuff that I'm hearing from my clients are, what can I do later to do more with less? So am I able to keep my overall costs down by working remotely? Can we continue with that in the future? Can we decrease different parts of our budget, but still have the same impact? So can we become a lean, mean, fighting machine? What can we do to not feel the level of stress that we're feeling right now in the future? So does that mean that I need to have 3 months or 6 months or 12 months of cash on hand? Do I need to have an established relationship with the bank so that I can go get a line of credit if needed? Do I have my financials in a good place so that when I go for that credit, it's actually going to be ready for me? And then how will I be managing my cash flow moving forward? How involved am I going to be? And so these are things that people are starting to recognize are going to follow them, through the next 6 months, 12 months, year and beyond, which I think is great. Because I do think it's important that you think about that. Otherwise, you're in a bad position. And then I really like that people are using different technology or getting things together under one roof. And, Frank talked about using Zoom calls earlier. We were using Dial-A-Pad and Slack, and we were missing messages in Slack because if you don't pay for it, it goes away. We really took a long, hard look at, what technology do we use and what can we use moving forward so that we can have the biggest impact for the lowest, biggest bang for our buck, essentially. And the people who are really smart and are going to stick around are going to be thinking about all those things. Sometimes it's hard to do it at the same time. But again, if you take a methodical approach and you don't just, try to do everything at once and try to solve issues one by one, it will feel better. You won't feel like you're losing your mind. But I really hope that the trends of that I just mentioned before will continue forward. I have a really good feeling that they will. And it is getting harder and harder to get financing. Just getting a traditional 7A SBA loan right now is way different than if you tried to get it a year ago. So I think people are starting to recognize that they need to make long-term changes if they still want to have that sort of access.
Really quickly, we got an audience question about advice for restaurants. I don't know if Christina or TJ, if you've worked with restaurateurs or just as business owners, if any of you have advice for restaurant trying to stay afloat for the next 2 years.
Sell all the booze, sell everything that's going to get you all the money. Now, figure out a way to cut your overall costs. So if that means looking at your shifts more closely and making sure that you don't have too many people. Of course, you need to have enough people on staff in order to really, keep your clients happy. But setting up your space properly, having high profit items, making sure that your costs are low. A lot of the clients that I see now that are most successful also have a portfolio approach. So same thing with my clients that are successful in cannabis is not putting all of your eggs in one basket and making sure that you've got multiple locations so that if one location takes a hit, then you can spread that risk really among all of your other locations. But the other thing too is food costing. It is really hard, to stay afloat in a restaurant, no matter what. So finding a food costing program, even if it's something as simple as a spreadsheet, making sure that you understand your costs so that you can price things appropriately is going to be essential for keeping your restaurant afloat. Everything else, marketing, social distancing, all that stuff doesn't matter if you don't have the cash to pay for it. So just make sure that you get a good handle on that cash and sell as much booze as you can. Send it to my house if you want. I'll buy it all.
Yeah, just to elaborate a little bit on what Tina said with food costs is my clients who are in food and beverage, they're really, really fostering their relationships with their vendors and things like that because everything is every industry is like up and down right now, including those suppliers, right? So, if you foster those relationships and if you really nurture them and hone in on them and even reach out and see if you can forge new relationships with new suppliers, I think that's essential, and just keep revisiting that, and expressing the gratitude for that and the help that they give you. There's always ways to apply for credit with vendors, which is great. There's also like high interest lines of credits that you can tap into sometimes, just exploring any option that's available, definitely.
I have one more thing to add to that. So if you are working with a food vendor everybody does if you're in food, and you've got multiple locations, you can start to ask for discounts because you're going to be buying at volume. And there's a couple other things too. If you know that it's going to be, you need to be a late payer, like you don't want a cash on delivery, kind of shipment, asking for credit terms where you can pay in 10, 15, 30 days. Or on the opposite side, if you know you have the cash on hand, ask for early pay discounts. Because if you can pay, immediately and it's for them, they're like, hey, I've got money now. Awesome. You could normally negotiate a 1 or 2% decrease on your overall bill, which doesn't seem like a lot of money, but I bet you at the end of the day, if someone were to say, here's your 1% or 2%, you would take it. So to really work, foster that communication with your vendor and ask if that's something that they offer, because a lot of people do.
I think we're coming up on time, so I'll make this the last question for everyone, and we'll do sort of a round robin. In answering this question, we ask that you repeat your name and your business name. And audience, that's going to be updated on the Denver Startup Week website in case you miss it. But my question to each of you, and we'll start with Christina, is what is your single biggest piece of financial advice that you're going to give to businesses as they emerge from the pandemic?
If you don't have an advisor, whether it's an accountant or other business advisor, get one. It's really hard to do this alone. It is a very lonely experience as an entrepreneur trying to go it alone because you don't know everything and you tend to be disconnected from your peers if you try to do it alone. And once you get that advisor, really work on understanding both the leading and the lagging indicators after you figured out what success means to you, and then track them and then change them as you go along. Of course, like what you think success looks like and what those metrics that you track are now will be different. Really focus on constant change, and then be nice to yourself. Don't work yourself too hard. I know it's easy to feel like you've got to grind 24/7 to get this done, but you will be more successful if you are happy and rested and feel good. If you don't feed yourself good food, you don't, take care of your body, you're going to burn out and there will be no business. So you are as important as your business, if not more. Oh, did I say Christina Garza, Accounting Pros? I probably forgot that.
Yeah, like Tina said, keep records, review them regularly. There's so much gold in your metrics and your financials and things like that to see how you've done as a predictor of what you can do and what you're capable of doing in the near future and long term. And aside from that too, when reviewing financial or management reports monthly, looking at holistically yourself as a human and saying, okay, how did I feel this month? Was I able to perform the best I could this month? Given any highs or lows and things like that, that may have attributed to that. And also forgiving yourself for not hitting every single target that you wanted to hit, because everything's changing. I'm TJ, and my company is The Book Keep.
I'm Frank Traylor at Agroscience Labs, and if you have any further questions, just connect with me on LinkedIn. Should be easy to find. I would say right now, most important is our relationships, because we don't know what's going to happen, and there will be times when people have to help you through things. Relationships with your employees important because now our lives are closer. Our health is involved. Relationships with customers always important. More important now, but with your financial advisors, Christina hit on that. You need to be tight and really know what's going on. Your landlord, your lawyer, the person who plows your lot. Just try to make sure that you're really tight with all these people, because maybe this is all going to be smooth sailing. We'll be back to normal, but it probably won't be, and we'll need each other.
Well, thank you, everyone. I know I learned a lot from today, so I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for being on this panel. My name is Jensen Werley. I'm a reporter at Denver Business Journal. So I guess we'll turn it over to Zero, or turn it over to the next panel.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. That was wonderful. I've updated all of your contact information on the Denver Startup Week website. So if anyone who's been listening in wants to find out more information about the panel, you can check it out there. But we'll hand it back to Denver Startup Week. Thank you so much for organizing. It's been great.
Thanks, everyone. We're good to go.
Thanks a lot.